Hey everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Had a great week too. Um wow, it's crazy how fast it's flown by. Before we get started, happy Canada Day. Tomorrow, happy long weekend, happy Canada Day to all the Canadians and running into a long weekend with the Americans as well. Happy 4th of July, early 4th of July. Nice that we're going to get a little bit of a break here. I know from a manager standpoint, it's going to be nice to have a little time off and have this week off. Z Velder, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But yeah, I just wanted to shout that out. I hope everyone has a fun and safe long weekend. Lots of fun. So we're getting back into the interviews. It's been a while since I've done one. The last one was with Slayer sometime at the beginning of June. But we got back into the regular programming. But I thought this is a good opportunity to bring some new and different content. So yeah, back here between two sticks. I am your host, as always, Big Kahuna 03. Um, and joining me today is a player who has experience on both consoles, has played seasons in the CHL, AHL, and NHL on both sides of the consoles, was part of one of the best C tier rated teams ever, AGM of the Moose Jaw Warriors, Erinssilence. Welcome to the show. Thanks for doing this. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. I know we've been trying to work this out over, I guess, probably about 2 or 3 weeks now. And I appreciate the hell out of you for accommodating. Yesterday, we were supposed to do this, had some family stuff come up, and thanks for being able to change your schedule for me.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So, usually, how we kick these off is give us one random or interesting fact about yourself.
Outside of burying the most obvious one of me being transgender, I actually played baseball in college on scholarship. That's probably the most interesting thing about me.
Oh, that's awesome. Where did you play?
Just a small school in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. My brother was the better player. He's the one that played it at a big Division 1 school and coaches Division 1 now. So
Oh, wow. What position did you play?
I was an outfielder and a pitcher.
Nice, nice. I've dabbled with some ball in my time. I can't play outfield though. I am a terrible judger of depth. If somebody hits the ball, I'm coming in. It's going behind me normally. So, well, not a position for me. But that's awesome. It really is a cool fact. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. First question: how did you hear about LG and what made you decide to join?
Well, I first joined LG back in season 3 on the PlayStation side, so we're talking 17 seasons ago. um, I found it randomly. I just was I was playing ESHL and was trying to see if there was a league. Found it randomly, signed up, but then the job I had at the time changed hours to where I was gonna be working at night more. So I signed up, didn't scout for anyone, got randomly assigned to a team, and got banned because I was inactive. Um, but then I came back again in season 6 on PlayStation, so most of my frame of reference is through PlayStation season. So we're talking then 14 seasons back from where we're at currently on Xbox. And yeah, so I had a couple buddies that I was playing just club with all the time that would constantly have to leave and for 2 or 3 hours at a time to go play in leagues and then would come back and I would just be like, where the hell are you guys going during this time? Like, what's this league you're talking about? So then they sent me the link and I signed up and I was like, oh, apparently I already had signed up and had an account. And then I was banned at some point, but I was back in good and yeah, made my actual start to my career then.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good. Like I never even heard of the league before until I found out about it by when I bought my last car. The guy that sold me my car was talking about this league, and I was like, "Well, that's cool." But yeah, I'm sure it's pretty easy to get involved when your friends are leaving you almost every night to go play in a league. So it's a good way to get involved for sure. Yeah, so obviously you just mentioned you started your career on the PSN side. So what made you decide that you wanted to move to Xbox?
Um, Part of it was the just the switch on the console generations. At the time, I decided to switch to Xbox because I was coming into season 39, so right before the console shift, and that was because I've I knew I could get a hands on a newer Xbox way faster than a newer PlayStation, and I really didn't want to play on the older console. Um, so that was really kind of the bigger or the I guess the trigger reason, but the bigger reason was more I really kind of had gotten tired of some of the culture on the PSN side, and I had earned quite a reputation on that side that some of the big names on the PlayStation side didn't like me a whole lot because I tried to rock the boat a little too much at times, and they pretty much just got to the point where I just had enough of them and just needed a fresh start.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Spuds the Scrub, thank you so much for the follow. So yeah, so you've moved to Xbox, you've played on PSN, you've played on Xbox. Aside some of maybe the conflict that you had on the or on the PlayStation side, which league is your favorite? Did you enjoy more, like from maybe a competition standpoint?
I mean, competition standpoint, the PlayStation NHL has been the best competition I played, mainly because you got a lot of the top guys on Xbox also play on PlayStation. So that was constantly night in, night out. I was playing top lines, like constantly going up against guys like J Claus and Jakku, um, Tommy, Gustav, and guys like that. And I had Gustav as a buddy of mine, so I usually got him on my team when I could. But um, really, that was I was a 500K player at the time that was uh, there, so I constantly was the Sui line, and so I always had tough matchups. But I've had more fun in the CHL um, on Xbox, particularly with that C tier Raiders team. That's been just kind of more enjoyable and relaxing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later on. And I just I see Swifty's comment here saying, "I'm here to pepper Aaron with hard statistical questions." So glad to see Swifty here. Yeah, that's funny. All right. So, what made you decide that you wanted to get into management?
I actually got into management on the PlayStation side first. Um, Swifty. I got into management in season 8 on PlayStation. Season 6, I had signed up when I first kind of came back. I signed up like 5 or 6 weeks into the season, so I could was randomly assigned to the team that won the Mem Cup as a TC. The next season, I ended up playing on a team that was not so good, but we ended up going on quite a big run there in the playoffs and got to the what's the OHL finals. Trying to remember which league that the Knights were in. And after that, like I had the person that was managing the AHL team I had my rights as a friend of mine that had taken over kind of a shitty situation where the owner or the not the owner, the GM and the AGM had both quit. And so she got control of the team and the team was just terrible. Like she couldn't get any players to show up for games most of the time. So it was constantly just the ECU show. So um I ended up playing more than the 8 games that you're supposed to in the AHL that season because it was the last game of the season, and at that point no one really cares. So played the ninth game, but that's when I kind of started looking at some like numbers and stuff. And then she was like, I want you to come manage with me the next season, but the only way I could get out of the C was for her to convince the NHL team to draft me and then leave me down in the AHL as the paid GM. And so I took over there. I managed in the A for 3 seasons, and then I went to the N for a little while and managed there.
Awesome. That's awesome. So just kind of like an invite then. And did you think that you had maybe like the traits and what it takes to be a good manager in the league? Is that like, were you nervous when you first joined as a manager?
No, I was more than confident in my ability as a player. Um, to be able at least to hang on the AHL. I didn't know I was going to be like good in the AHL. I knew I could hang, but I was at the time I was a little overconfident in what my initial statistical numbers were. My first iteration of kind of coming up with values and player analysis, and that team ended up being pretty terrible because we had a couple toxic people that just blew up on the team first week and then we never recovered.
Yeah, that can that can be tough when your top players get toxic for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe once you got into management, and I mean, you can maybe even take your experience now, but like if your earlier experiences relates better, like once you got into management, what was one thing that you learned about it that maybe you didn't know about before? Because I know, like for me, when I got into it, it's like it is a lot more work than other like people think, right? So just like maybe one thing that you learned that you didn't know before.
Um, yeah, that first season managing, I would say the thing I didn't know that I learned was that um, it's a lot of babysitting. It's a lot of managing egos, trying to keep people happy while they're not happy, especially on a really bad team like that one was. And it wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking people would be more chill because it's an internet video game hockey league. Like you can't, like I can't think of you being that toxic about it. But yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of babysitting, whether it's ego or whether it's trying to manage people's calendars for them. It's tough for sure. So, because I think as managers, we all have a picture of how things are going to go, and it just does not work that way. And it's any advice I give it to any new manager is like, whatever you think's going to happen, just be ready that it's not going to happen. Be prepared, right?
Pretty
Like,
much, yeah.
it's just
Have
never
a
going to
have
go the
a
way you want.
have a plan B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, and then if those all fail, just quit. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, this season it was kind of a grind for me going through bidding. How did bidding go for you guys?
For the most part, bidding was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it wasn't a grind either. Like we got our cheap guys pretty early on, the guys that we knew that we wanted to get for those smaller contracts. Then it became a matter of how high do we want to go on some of our other guys. So a couple of the initial people that we were in on ended up reaching a point that we just decided this is too high. That they're good players, but they're not worth blowing our entire cap. That we can't get a good depth and good whole team like three lines deep. And so we basically um, kind of built up our one line really easily. And to being Colton's line, we got for like both his wingers for 750K, I think. Maybe Ludo was 1 mil. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he got his right D for 750. Like got our goalies for 750. Like everything was kind of moving smooth with that. The one spot we kind of got stuck on. Actually, two spots was our last kind of forward spot and our last D spot where we kind of were getting stuck to where we were going to get into a really tight cap crunch, and we got lucky and ended up getting the guys that we were in on, um, and still managed to save 500K. But it was out of the bidding sessions I've been involved in with other times managing, I would say this was probably the easiest one that I've had.
Interesting, interesting. I thought it was the complete opposite because for me, I usually have a long list of players, and this season I did not. Right, like I when I went through and I was like, these are the guys I want to target. My list was like, my centerman list for sure was so small. I was like, oh my gosh, there's nobody I don't know any of these guys. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And obviously, you're the AGM of the team. Were you involved really heavily? Did they let you kind of do your own thing and support?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved very heavily. Me and Zero have managed together on the PlayStation side. We managed in the AHL together. Season 9 over there had the second best record in the AHL that season. And then again in season 11, we managed in the end when I was owning in the end. And I just needed I couldn't find an actual good free contract player that was worth it in the end. So I ended up getting the Mike Long and then Zero, the two guys that I managed with back in the AHL, got them to come up and kind of just help me out because we all had chemistry together. And so me and Zero have kind of been trying to get this to work for the last like season or two. And finally got it to work where one of us was able to get the ownership spot this season and kind of make it work. And yeah, really, it was this season was we left kind of Colton to kind of get his line, and then Zero kind of focused it on the forwards, and I kind of focused more on the defense. And we kind of took a really defensive heavy approach, kind of looking at the bidding list. We figured we can get some really good top defensemen for relatively cheap because that bidding, I felt like the defensive bidding pool was actually pretty deep this season, and you can always find forward easier during the season and trade. So that's kind of the approach that we took.
Yeah, you guys did a good job. You have a really good team too. So, who was your biggest steal? Do you think in bidding?
Um, it's only 2 weeks in, so I have a hard time saying it's steal, but I would really say both our goalies, both Shot by Ryan and Drog, have both been absolutely unbelievable in that for the fact that they were, one bid 750K guys that they have just stood on their head and so provided us with a ton of just support back there to where, as a defensive kind of minded team, that we know that if a shot gets through, they're gonna have it. They trust us on the defensive side, we trust them. So having that, knowing that all 9 games every week we have a goalie running out there that's gonna could at any point in time just stand on his head and lock down 3 shutouts a night is really nice benefit to have.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I've been kind of obviously like with doing my Kuna's Corner. I'm following these teams really closely, and I've seen their stats. Those guys they're playing really really well for you guys.
Yeah, they're playing out of their minds right now.
Swifty being funny in the chat, he's got some random question in there. So whoever can answer that in chat, go for it. I don't even know if Swifty's gonna know the right answer. I think he's just putting stuff in here. But we'll get to that later. And Dursley, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Next question, and I know there's an answer to this, so I'm really interested. Any early rivalries with any other managers or teams yet?
I mean, it would definitely be Regina right now. Potato has kind of taken it on him to kind of come at me for that waiver wire issue that he had, that I aptly pointed out, which is part of the reputation I got on the PlayStation side was for putting in action centers for things. Um, but I mean, it's a team in my division and they're violating the rules. I can't not do something about that. And I would also say I have a kind of a more of a friendly rivalry with the Raiders guys with Stomps, Jayco, and Psycho over there. But the Regina would probably be the more heated one, I'd say right now.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, guys are gonna get like teams are gonna get heated when people get AC'd for or get caught for breaking rules, right?
Yeah.
But no, I love a good rivalry. I know the bar like the managers chat was going crazy that day, and even you guys ended up playing each other last week, and I know they got the better of you guys, but you guys will meet so many times this season. It's gonna be fun to follow along with.
I mean, we'll pretty much play them every week, but I haven't actually played against them yet this season. I don't think I haven't played Potato at least, but I know he wants me to basically try to schedule myself every time that we play them because he thinks that he can come at me and walk me and everything like that, even though past history shows that it's been the other way around.
I love it. I love it. And I think he was scheduled to play against you guys, but I think he had the suspension, didn't he?
And I think he did play against my team this
Oh, did
week.
he end up playing? I thought maybe he had a suspension from all the
He
rule
had a
violations.
one game suspension, so it was like that's nothing.
That is
Let
nothing.
me let me
That's a
double check.
break, actually. That's not even a suspension. That's just a break. That's all that is.
Him, Marco, Saquon, yeah, they played our squid line with Shaw, Squid, SVG, Dirk, and Henny.
Right.
So
Right. All right. I mean, this wouldn't be an LG stream if we didn't talk about the great season you had in 39 with the Prince Albert Raiders. First, but like, just kind of run through that team. Like, what made this team so good? Because I know you guys had a great season.
yeah, I mean, kind of just going into that season, knowing it was going to be my first like full-time season on Xbox, like not playing on PlayStation. I had played one other season prior back in season 32, where I did both AHL on PlayStation and then I signed up late on Xbox and was able to get called up because of the RAV rule back then. And was able to play with like a couple of my buddies that were PlayStation guys. We ended up having like pretty much a whole PlayStation NHL AHL line and had some fun that way. But season 30 was the first season full time on Xbox. And coming in, I only scouted for Jacksonville for the Icemen because I ended up getting in a club game with them. I liked how they played, and I just like I want to stay kind of cheap, and I'll just scout with them. If they bid on me, they bid on me. If not, whatever. Someone will probably take a shot. And after they filled the roster spots, Ducky kind of threw my name out in the the shout box, and Jayco just kind of took a blind bid at me. And when I first got in that Raiders Discord, he's like, "Yeah, I kind of saw your NHL stats on an AHL stats over from PlayStation. You look like a good defender, but no idea how you are at right wing. But Ducky says you're okay." So, and just kind of starting off the bat there, like it was like I don't know what to expect. Quite frankly, I was looking at our team stats just off the bat. It's like I don't think we looked that good. I don't look bad, but I don't think we looked that good either. But once we started playing, it was, I mean, for me and Jay, it was, I felt like it was pretty much just some instant chemistry as to how we moved the puck with each other. And then Bob's pretty much just had to sit on the left wing and just hit up.
Just stand there and shoot the puck.
Yep.
Right on.
And just kind of the culture that we ended up having with that team was very much that Jay kind of had a team full of his buddies that he either had in other leagues or just kind of played with every night. I mean, I still play with those guys whenever I can. I don't play as much club anymore as I have been. I've kind of gotten a little burnt out with NHL outside of LG games, to be frank. But they just always kind of have just a chill time. Like Stomps is constantly just in the party, just drinking and drunk when he's playing Chels. So it's fun. You never know what's going to happen there. And yeah, just that early kind of part of that season when Swifty came out with that tier ranking, I kind of just did what I had been doing when I was over on the PlayStation side, and always just kind of keeping track of my team stats and how it kind of stacked up with the league in terms of do we look better than we actually are? You know, where do we stand? And Swifty's C tier came out, and I was like, no, we're better than most of these teams he's putting in these higher tiers, and I have the stats to prove it. So it kind of started off with me kind of coming after a Swifty in a kind of a fun way there, not trying to like insult him, but coming at him with a little bit of heat and giving him that report card I gave him. And then posting some of the stats that I was doing. And then I just kind of ran with it within the Raiders chat where I was just like, can you guys believe this? Like Swifty's over here calling it C tier. I have stats saying that we're like the top team in W right now. Like, let's get going. Let's prove it to everybody. And everyone just kind of bought into it, and it became kind of our meme for the season.
Yeah, that's funny. I guess that that kind of answers the next question I was gonna ask. Is like I know you had a very vocal opinion about it, but was like the team on board? Where they kind of and obviously it sounds like you guys use it to fuel the fire and keep you guys buzzing a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely brought it up all the time and constantly would buzz about it. I kind of was the initiator, but then Wicked was the one that kind of took over from there, where Wicked would constantly be in and Swifty's chat talking about it, and then kind of surprising that I'm gonna actually say this, but Deep Blue, a good old Ice Sniper, actually had a pretty good part in actually getting the C tier thing going there too, because he got a little salty over that.
Ice,
So
Ice Sniper knows how to get salty. That's for sure.
yeah, so he got a little salty over that, and then we just kind of kept running. I kept posting the stats every week, and then saying, they still don't believe in us. They still don't believe in us, and yeah, like Swifty said, Ice Sniper hates his guts, and he was all about like anything he could use to roast Swifty with it. And I just kind of was like, "Yep, here's some more gasoline for you," and throw it on the fire for him. So yeah, it just kind of is one of those. I'm not afraid to play the heel, when it comes to that. Like if I'd rather, have a little fun, have some people come at me and hate me, and then maybe they press themselves into a game that they probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, I thought it was good content. I mean, it was nice going back and forth, and you were putting out some posts, Rifty was putting out some
Yeah.
posts, and I thought honestly like that's good media too, right? You got to think like
Oh yeah.
two people going back and forth, have some supporting data. It's good instead of just an argument. Now, Swifty saying in the chat, and you just mentioned like Ice Sniper hates his guts. Stomp says Ice Sniper hates everyone's guts. So, yeah,
That's
he's a hard guy to
very
please for
true.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, I ended up blowing up on him in one game, and then he got traded after that week because like Um, even as a forward, I still played very defensive because I'm naturally a defenseman. And there was the one time or one game where he went for like a hit at the blue line, and it was a 3-on-1. and he completely whiffed on the hit and easy, tic-tac-toe goal. And I almost came back and was able to come back and back check and disrupt it as a right wing. But he tried to then blame it on the forwards for turning the puck over behind the net in the offensive zone, and that's why the goal went in. So I just blew up on him, and he started going off about how I'm a referee. I've ref these top players. I'm like, I don't care who the hell you referee. We're playing a game, and it's a video game. Like, talk about real life. We're playing a video game, and you just screwed up. Just own it, man.
Just own it. Yeah, I hate the guys that make up all these excuses. Just own it. Who cares? It's a game. You're gonna make mistakes. But yeah, no, I've played with Ice Sniper a few times too. It's he's God's gift to the game, right? So I've one thing I did want to address though is you mentioned how Stomps was always drinking in the party. I'm really curious. He's in the chat right now. Stomps, are you
Yeah.
drinking tonight? Are you on the pints tonight? We'll see what he says. Donko, I miss you too, buddy. Donko, I miss you. Donko saying that he misses me. I miss him a lot too. First time in a long time we've been separated, so he sure is. Stomps is drinking. So there you go. Proof
Quickly
that
is.
Stomps is always gassing beers. Okay, so we talked about how good this team was. They maybe didn't deserve a C tier ranking. What happened against the Pats in round two? If I'm not mistaken, there was a little bit of controversy here.
Little is a vague term. There was a lot of controversy. So the games that I played in, there really wasn't any issue. Won one, lost one. Like they were really tight games. It was the games where I think it was Wicked was in that there was some really suspicious kind of activity in regards to potential booting, um, where all of a sudden one of our guys that's never been booted is all of a sudden dropping out of a game. We get back in as soon as momentum turns around, and we had the momentum. All of a sudden, another one of our guys that's a different guy drops out, and it was one of those we knew that there was that issue kind of going around from the last couple seasons prior to that where people were on the stream and then just booting guys and booting them off their IP or whatever in the Xboxes and games, and it happened in the I can't remember if it was caps or if it was the one CBJ tournament that was an issue that they had to end up finishing the game off stream because it got so bad. And it really kind of got to the point where it was more than just kind of a what seemed like um, coincidental lag outs and connection issues that it seems like, and I won't say it was anything on the paths in particular. Some of the guys thought it was people on the paths that were specifically booting. My thought was more it was probably someone that was on the stream watching that kind of was potentially doing it, and then even Wicked kind of looking back, um, thought it was someone that was stream watching that just absolutely hated his guts that was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the one game we ended up, like Stomp says, we were 3 minutes late, played the rest of the game, we won it, and then they overturned it because the ECU ended up being 3 minutes late after we'd been booted 12 times in the game. Like, and then I think it was after the fact, like after the season, like um, I think one of the blogs may have said that that probably wasn't the right way to handle it. But at that point, it's a little too late. Can't really go back on anything. But yeah, it was an unfortunate end to that season. And I mean, like I said, I can't confirm one way or the other if someone was booting, but it was very suspicious either way that it was only happening to our guys and that their guys really weren't lagging out or anything. So
Yeah, I think even actually, if I remember correctly, like through those playoffs, even after that, like there was some serious booting issues, with
yeah,
other guys too, and like some of the like teams that you look at that people are always right away they'll accuse the other team, but like you look
oh
at
yeah,
some of those managers, like there's no way that they're doing it. There's somebody who's just around trolling, and I think last season went really well. We had zero issues through playoffs. The season before that, we didn't do any streams in playoffs and we were doing scheduling like through IMs and stuff like that. So we avoided it 2 seasons ago by having to do a lot of extra work this past season. Knock on wood was great. Like hopefully we can just avoid all that stuff. But it's really too bad that that's how it happened because, um, you know, get a game overturned for that. It's kind of a tough sell. Like I don't know if I fully agree with the ruling on
yeah.
that, but
I mean, it's one of those where they're following the rule that's in place, whether it was a good rule or a bad rule at the time. That's what's in place. You gotta follow it, and Really, it's more, for my opinion, it's just sad that people feel the need to cheat in a free online video game league. Like, and that goes for second tagging, tampering, all that. Like, I just have never understood why people live for it so much that they have to cheat to try to win something that has literally no monetary prize. It's not like you're gonna go brag about this to your buddies like at work or anything like that. You're not gonna put it on your Tinder profile, like, although I think there has been a couple people that have that I've seen. Um,
Your buddy in Regina, Potato, has his LGHL stats on his Tinder profile. I can confirm that. I've seen it in when I was on his team. I seen it.
yeah,
So it's happening.
and kind of funny enough, I ended up in Regina for 2 weeks last season, and they actually had emojis in their chat that kind of poked some fun at the Raiders quite a bit for it too. So like they still would poke that bear and throw that salt on there. But yeah, I've never understood why people need to boot, cheat, anything. Like it's just a game. Like
For sure.
yeah.
It's disappointing, man. It really is. Like, but not everybody, like I guess not everybody does it has the same way of competition level. Like for me, I'm too competitive, right? Like I
Yeah.
want to be better than people, so like I want to beat somebody's fair and square. Like cheating for me doesn't just because I win doesn't mean I'm good at the game. Especially if I had to cheat, like for me, I want to be better than somebody, and that's just my competitive edge. Other people, no problem doing it, right? So and they don't feel bad for doing it. That's the other thing too. We can say as much as we want, like I don't know who does this, or I like you have to be some type of person, and that's what they are. They're that type of person. They don't care, right? We can shun them as much as we want. They're going to continue to do it, and they're going to continue to do it for as long as they play video games. So
And
it's
if they
just too
get
bad.
banned from LG, they'll just go to the next league and do it.
That's right, exactly. All right, so you put that season, you put up 71 points. That was a career season for you. Then after that, you made the switch to right D and played in the AHL. Why did you make that switch to right D? I know you played D on the PSN side, but like after putting up 71 points, what was it that made you switch to defense?
I mean, I naturally actually started off on the PlayStation side of the center, and then before season 7, the team that I was scouting with, that I was buddies with, that wanted to get me, asked me to switch to D because they had like three other centers that they liked that were better offensively than I was. And they thought I'd be cheaper on D. And since I've always been a defensive first kind of center, that it would be an easy transition. And when I did that, they didn't. And they ended up getting me, but then I really wasn't as good at D back then because I had literally never played D before, and I was out of position all the time. So they ended up trading me 3 weeks in, and then I kind of started realizing, okay, if my buddies traded me, I got to get better at this, and started doing some study and getting better, watching some of the top guys like I think Odie was one of the ones that I was looking at more back then, and guys like that I started watching those top, East Show guys, those guys from like Entourage and all that, and seeing how they played. And I picked up quite a bit doing that, and um, played in the rest of my PlayStation career from season 7 all the way through I think season 16 over there on D. And so when I came over to Xbox, I wanted to initially just kind of play forward because I'd never gotten a chance to play forward in League. And but after that season, when we made the switch to NHL 22, initially during how the beta phase was going, how the early part of the game was, I just did not like the way that forward felt. I felt like I was usually running small and would get bumped off the puck just by someone looking at me wrong. And if I ran big, I was so slow and sluggish. I hated it. So I put a couple of club games on D and realized, like, I love the way D feels here. Like this feels like it's right up my alley. Like because um, I first came up on D, it was back during the poke spam era of NHL 17, NHL 18, where you just hit the right bumper and anything was off their stick every time. And I hated that because like I would try to play a kind of more of a kind of a looser D, more passive, where I'm not up in your face as much, and I'm just trying to funnel you more to a bad spot. And I couldn't do as much with the skill stick because if you moved it, you're usually tripping the guy, but if you poked, it was good. But then they kind of switched that up, and then coming into this season on 22, it really felt like everything was rewarded by the skill stick and by good positioning and by funneling them to bad spots. So I really felt that it 22 kind of played more to how I played defense and decided to make that switch. And I also kind of was like, I want to see if I can kind of hang on the Xbox side at one of the higher levels too. So made the switch. One of my buddies from the PlayStation side, Tibernac, ended up dropping my name over to Castle, and Castle threw a bid on me, and I ended up playing the majority of the season with him as my center, and then had Bandit as my left D partner for a good portion of that. So it was easy street and fun because of that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now after playing both forward and D, so primarily right wing, right D, if you had to pick one to play, so if someone was like, you need to play one position for the rest of your career, what would it be?
I'm gonna play the D just because that's just what I know. I know I'm better at D. Um, I can do more. I can be more impactful on D. I feel like as well. Whereas forward, I'm very much. I skate like a bot on forward. I don't really have the active thumbs. I'm very much a uh, role player on a forward line. And even like when I played Hut pretty competitively this year, I never won games because I was able to dangle guys or do any like the toe drags and everything. I would win because I'd play really good defense and I would pass the puck way quicker than anyone would expect and just take shots with those passes. So um, defense though, it's just I feel like I position well. I can quarterback breakouts, which I feel like most of the time in the CHL most D can't. And I really enjoy shutting people down more than scoring.
Nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah. So I mean, some people like that. For me, I love defense, but I can only play like a couple games. Like if I start playing more than 2 games, I am up in the ozone way too much. That's why I cannot make that switch to play D. But
Yeah,
uh,
I've always tended to be a more offensive D though too. Like I won't necessarily like step up and like take the puck down low, but I'm always looking to get into that high slot for that one timer. Or if you get me the puck back at the point, I'm not afraid to rip one on net and generate a rebound or something. But yeah, yeah, I do like to get offensive minded, but for the most part, I have more fun frustrating the hell out of people, especially at the blue line.
and you know it's happening, right? You know, like if you get like 2 or 3 pokes in a row on the blue line, somebody's being like these fucking
Oh yeah.
pokes on the other side. You know what I mean? That's
Oh,
me, pretty much.
my favorite is to get the couple pokes and then watch them draw three offsides in a row because they try to pull up at the last second and their buddy keeps going forward.
Nice. And then instead of yelling at your pokes, they're yelling at their buddy to stay on side.
Yeah.
All right. So I mean, we talked a little bit about this, when we were talking about the C tier stuff, but there was a time there where you're putting out a lot of statistics in the forums and, in Discord, spitting some stats. Is this a passion of yours? Like, is it still something that you're doing with LG stats?
Um, yeah, it's definitely a big passion, like statistics and everything. I mean, that's my career as well. I work as a data analyst. Um, but it was actually just kind of doing it as a hobby that kind of led to me actually getting a graduate degree and master's degree in data analytics and turning it into my career. It all kind of started where, like I said, back on that season 8 on PlayStation, where my friend was taking over, and I had gotten frustrated with the being from Chicago and Blackhawks fan, got really frustrated with where the Blackhawks were cap wise, and I would like love to play franchise, but they just never had the room to do anything, and then they had all these no trade clauses on like the Seabrooks, Crawford, Keith, Kane, Tays, like and it's like I can't do anything because he's like I'm so hamstrung by this cap situation. So being a baseball player, baseball fan my whole life, I've always been really big into analytics for baseball. So I was like, what if I can take a lot of that kind of Moneyball, Bill James, sabermetric stuff and translate that to hockey? Because my theory was is that the Moneyball theory works in baseball well during the regular season, but fails in the postseason because teams like the Yankees can just go and buy all the best players. And when it comes to the postseason, it's like, okay, yeah, we don't care who you throw at us. We got platoon guys that we can bring out that are still 40 home run hitters coming off the bench. Whereas, the A's are a budget team that couldn't do that. And I always thought if you take this and you put it in a cap structured environment like NHL or the NBA, that's where it would actually really thrive because then you're forced into having to find value in cheaper players that can still provide something for those lower lines, those backup roles more. So I started kind of initially just taking baseball statistics and trying to translate that, which was kind of my first iteration with the stats I had, and I ran in season 8. That didn't end up so well. I learned very quickly that some of the approach that I had in terms of just the logic between translating from baseball to hockey was off, and I needed to kind of switch that up. So I started studying everything that I could on hockey analytics, and eventually found my way to some papers by a guy named Alan Ryder, who wrote a bunch of different things where he basically did the same thing back in like the mid to late 2000s, where he made like the baseball war concept and he turned it into a hockey player contribution concept. So the more and more I studied that, and the more I tweaked it, the more I made it work and kind of figured out how it works for real life. And then I had to adjust it for LG. And that's where, when I got to the NHL on LG as an owner, I learned that there's quite a bit of factors that you don't get seen in like the stats you see on the site. Like you don't see the strength of schedule. You don't know how good the linemen that guy had were and how much they're just carrying them and just benefiting just from, if you're playing with, I mean, if you got like a J Claus and Jakku with you, that's automatically going to make you a better player because they're going to do 95% of the work and all you got to do is just tap it in or just get the puck to them and let them do it. So as I began to work on it more and more, I ended up deciding that I wanted to go back to school and get a degree in this because I was enjoying it so much. So I went back to school, took a season off from LG on that side because of that, and to kind of get going with that, finish the degree, and then kind of made the switch. And at that point, I started kind of posting the stats more and more because it was something that I really enjoyed doing back on the PlayStation side when I was in the AHL. I would kind of do the Scrub Hunter case studies back then over there, and people really enjoyed that. And at one point, I was on the awards committee on the PlayStation side for the AHL and was using the stats for that. But that caused a lot of controversy because people didn't like the fact that the MVP wasn't the top scorer. And I'm like, well, he's played 80% of his lines that he's played have not even been close to 500. So why should he get credit as the MVP when he's playing shitters? And but yeah, working at over here, kind of posting it, kind of having a little bit of that kind of fun. I wouldn't necessarily call it feud, but more just good media content with Swifty. Kind of made it to where I was able to kind of reignite some of my passion for posting and making the threads. And it actually introduced me to Flurry. And me and Flurry started talking more about advanced analytics and got to the point where Flurry was able to pull a lot of the data at a much faster pace because he knows the coding side of things that I didn't necessarily know. And we were kind of partnering together and working on that where he would pull the data, I would come up with the formulas, and then he would kind of program the formulas in. And at one point, Tris was even wanting to revamp the LG ratings, and me and Flurry were trying to work with him until kind of had a disagreement with Tris over how it should be handled. I really like doing rolling averages based off of the league current that season, but that changes every week then because the average and the numbers change. And Tris didn't like that because it was going to be too much coding work and he just wanted to set numbers. So we disagreed. I decided to kind of part ways with that. But that's when Flurry kind of took everything that we'd been working on and he ended up making that spreadsheet website. Then all the war cards and everything. He's taken it to a different level in terms of the presentation of it. Um, like I just kind of gave him the formulas, but he's ran with it and making that site, making the cards, making it easy and updated every week for people to go check. And I know people on both sides have loved it. So I don't post it as much anymore because I'm kind of just, it's all right there. He's got it. I'm not going to try and steal his thunder. Yeah, I can share Flurry's site. I see Money kind of asking about that, but yeah, it's the spreadsheet.net, and it has everything from PlayStation and Xbox on there for the last couple seasons. And I think he keeps working his way back through it, but um, but yeah, I haven't posted as much just because a lot of stuff in my life has changed to where I'm working full time. When I was kind of posting, I was unemployed at the time, so I had a lot more time to sit there and do nothing. Um, but now I don't have as much, and yeah, so I'll still post things every now and then for fun, but not like I used to. just don't have the time of day to put the effort into the making a post for a video game hockey league as much. Not not that it's not fun, but I just when I'm doing spreadsheets all day for work, it kind of makes it so I kind of want to take a break.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can feel that. I understand that feeling too. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of people appreciated those posts for sure. Like John Payne said a little bit earlier, need more Erinssilence statistics forum posts. He enjoys that nerdy math stuff, is what he called it. And Moneywag says he remembers those Scrub Hunter stuff. I love the Scrub Hunter post because a lot of people say it, but nobody puts it out there for everyone to look at. So those were some fun ones to read for sure. Um,
Yeah, I always love the scrub hunting one just because people get so salty when that they get labeled that way, and like I just like I like if I'm on scrub hunt, I'm just gonna own it. Like, yeah, I'm playing shitters every week. I don't care. Come stop me. Like, schedule yourself against me and see what happens. Like, but like, yeah, I laugh because it's just like people take that to heart so personally. It's like, dude, you like just own up to it. Just who cares?
yeah,
If you're scrub hunting, that means you're getting wins for your team. That's points in the standings. That's all you're wanting at that point.
no, for sure, for sure. It's just they're fun, and you know what I love the most about them. One, I love that the confidence of being able to write that post and call somebody out. But the best is just reading through comments and watching guys go back and forth and argue. And
Oh yeah, I
you're
mean,
the one that ends up calling them out, and then more people end up fighting with each other through the comments than arguing with your points. So it's just fun to follow along.
oh yeah, I had a lot of fun poking the Edmonton team that season 39 with that sushi one, and then just watching Caniac and um, False Hope just going in the comments just nonstop to where anything I posted, they're in there talking about how oh, this is shit, this is stupid, and I'm just like, oh, you're just mad because I called your boy out.
Yeah, thanks for the view. Appreciate it. Thanks for the comment.
Yeah.
Um, Nice. Yeah. So I mean, hopefully you get some free time. We get to see some of these posts again because I know I enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people in the league enjoyed them as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention Husey. Thank you for the follow, Husey75. Gucci Shades. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Next question. Um, it was a while ago now, but I do remember seeing a tweet that maybe you put out. And I believe you were asking for feedback from the LGBT community on kind of their experience, what their experiences have been playing the game. One, was this reference to like the LG community, NHL community, or gaming communities in general? And then two, did you get some feedback from other people?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a personal issue to me because I am trans, so I am very much a part of that community, and it's been a kind of a topic that has gotten me in some trouble at LG, not necessarily with the league, but as part of that reputation I had in the PlayStation side. Like I had people that would come at me where there's a lot of the COC stuff that got put in after like Cuddy kind of took over some of the bonk stuff on the PlayStation side was because he was a goalie on two of my teams and saw a lot of the shit that I got to put up with. So he kind of put more of a focus on that with Brody interest and getting more of those things hammered out because he knew how hostile some people could be from seeing and dealing with it with me. And yeah, it was really more, it was addressing the the NHL 22 community, the channel community more than anything. Because at the time when I initially kind of was posting that tweet and trying to do that was right when those GWC bans were handed out for like Josh Viras and Own the Blue and all those guys that were getting those lifetime bans. And there was a ton of controversy and arguments and debates that were happening all over social media in regards to that because you have people that are like, "Oh, this is stupid. They shouldn't get banned." Other people are saying, "No, they absolutely should." And I was on the side of like, if you're getting banned for using slurs and everything, like you absolutely should be given bans. Now, the lifetime ban, I didn't necessarily agree with. I thought that was a bit harsh in that it doesn't give people a chance to change. But what ended up happening was as I was responding to some of those tweets and some of the responses that I was getting back from people was that I basically, my opinion, whatever it was I said, was completely trashed. Not because they disagree with my opinion, but because they would see pronouns in my Twitter profile. They'd see that I was trans, and they would just come after me for who I am and basically say, well, you can't even determine what gender you are, so why should I ever listen to your point? And I'm just like, okay, that's not at all anything that is remotely close to this topic. But it got to the point where I was seeing it so often that there was one specific situation that ended up happening with, um, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he's on one of the NHL rosters. I think it was Ohms or Ohmster, only something like that, where he got mad at one of my comments, commented, and then he went and then tweeted his own tweet, basically saying, "Well, I now identify as a French fry," and instantly just kind of throwing shade at me being trans. And I saw that, so I kind of had to say something to it, and it just led to a bunch of people basically coming in and responding, saying all sorts of different, nice, not nice things that you could say to people. Basically, one of them telling me to go play in traffic, things of that nature. And these accounts that were saying that, of course, aren't tied to LG accounts, so you couldn't, some people were, I guess, were a little bit smarter than you think they would be. But it eventually led to me kind of wanting to get a better vibe because I have other friends that I knew from the PlayStation side that are LGBT or just even just talking just women in general playing in the league that have really kind of dealt with some shitty adversity from the way that people respond to them, the way that people talk to them, the way that they treat them, to where it's almost like they get blacklisted even if they're a really good player. They get blacklisted because someone doesn't want to bring them onto their team because, well, if we say one thing out of line, they're going to AC everybody and get the whole team banned. And it's like, why are you saying it to begin with? But it really kind of was hitting me at a point where I was kind of really dealing with some family shit with my own transition and everything, to where my family's not very supportive of that, and disagree with it. And I was like, I'm gonna do me. I gotta live my life. And seeing that, I was like, you know what? This is the community I'm most active in. This is the community I feel like I can make an impact in with something. So I put the tweet out wanting to get anyone that is LGBT within the Chell community to be able to kind of get their thoughts, ask them some things, talk to them. And sadly, I only got like 3 or 4 responses. I should say 3 or 4 serious responses. I had plenty of people tag me saying, "Oh, you should talk to this person. They're definitely gay," and it's just them trolling their buddies and stuff like that. But of the 3 or 4 responses I did get to have some pretty good conversations with them and get a better vibe of it, but I didn't feel like I ended up having enough to really write a thread or a post about. And then it ended up kind of one of the Twitter situations that trickled into the shout box, that ended up being a situation where I ended up having to talk with Brody and Tris quite a bit about it because I was very upset about it. And we started to kind of work on trying to figure out a way to maybe promote advocacy or at least acceptance more in the league, but then it kind of fell apart, and I haven't heard back from either of them in a while for that. But the kind of the vibe that I ended up getting from people is that they do feel like they have found a home within the child community, which was music to my ears because like I do love playing in this community and playing Chell, and I have found good people like Stomps, Jayco, on the PlayStation side, people like V Rain, Strawberry Paladin, Midnight Nihilist, Gustav, Crofto, Mikey. Like I found some really good people that have made it a very accepting, very safe community. But then there's also the other side where there's people that aren't, that really are the vocal ones. And from the 3 or 4 people I got was that once they found their people, they were good. Like they just wouldn't go in the shout box. They wouldn't get engaged on anything in Twitter, wouldn't get engaged in forum posts or anything like that. They would just mind their business, show up for their games, and then play club with their little group they had. And they felt comfortable and content with that. But in regards to when they first were trying to find that group, they were all like, yeah, there was a bit of fear. Like you didn't want certain things to get out because you knew the minute it did, then the second something goes bad, people are going to start trashing you for not how you play, but they're going to trash you for that. And so there was like a sad part there where like there is this fear of being free to be yourself and to engage in some of these things because of that. But I was at least happy to know that every one of them said that they feel safe within the community because they have people that will take their, have their back and support them. But that was ultimately kind of what came up with it. And it just, like I said, I didn't have enough to really write something on. I was hoping to kind of get more like 10 to 20 responses, but kind of felt like 3 or 4 is more just kind of a small anomaly more than anything. So,
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, man, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry that you have to deal with some of that shit, man.
yeah.
That's bullshit. Um, to a point where, you feel like you need to write something up. I think it's complete shit. Like when I see people make those comments and, when you talk about getting banned for life and people, getting cap bans, like I'm glad to see that stuff happen. But, in today's world, there's no fucking way that's the way somebody should be treated at all, no matter what their status, no matter what their pronoun or any of that, right?
Mhm.
So I'm glad that you're comfortable enough to come on here and kind of mention that experience. And it's too bad that you only had that many people respond, because I'm sure there's a lot more out there that might feel the same way that you feel, and they may just not be comfortable having that conversation right now. But um, I hope that, like for me and like a lot of the people that I play with, we're happy to have you in the league, and I'm not going to treat you any differently either. Like I'm going to get in a fuck you match with you if I feel like it one day, and
Yeah.
we'll shoot the shit. But I'm sorry that you had to go through something like that. And I guess one of my questions would be like, since maybe coming out and letting everybody know kind of your status, do you feel like things have gotten better, or do you think that maybe we have not progressed as a community yet?
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a both yes and a no. Initially, when I first joined the league, I tried to kind of keep everything quiet. I didn't tell anyone about it at all. I would just show up, kind of play my games. I had my club buddies I'd play with. Um, it ended up being in a banana league was the first time I actually said anything about it to people because I ended up becoming like a mod for that league or whatever. And there was an issue in the chat that we had, the general league chat, where a couple players just started using all sorts of just homophobic slurs. So I immediately came in there just wielding the ban hammer, and people got super upset. And in the moment, I said something about, I'm one of these people you're kind of talking about. Like, I'm not going to sit here and take it. And I left it at that. And what happened was like the next 4 or 5 seasons on PlayStation, I would constantly have people just randomly in the shout box if they saw me and they would kind of come in and be like asking me, "Hey, are you a girl? Like, I heard this, but I don't know." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a girl." Like, and then they get in like party with me like in a game, and they'd be like, "Are you sure? Like, I don't sound like one." And like, I'm like, yeah, like I'm telling you this is it. "Yeah, you sure? I think you're pulling you're yanking my chain." And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, can we just shut the fuck up and play hockey? Because I'm like, I'm not here to sit there and talk about my personal life. If I want to talk about my personal life, I'll talk about it with you. Like, you're my friends at that point. But if you're just joining me for a random club game, I just want to play hockey. Like,
For sure, for sure.
and who I am doesn't affect that. But it got to a point where it reached a tipping point where it was a couple different people that kind of had a feud with me on the NHL side of on PSN, where I was accusing them of a lot of tampering, and not only just tampering, but basically conspiring to only make sure that certain owners were able to get certain players, and telling those guys, like, hey, if you go to this team, like, you want to immediately put your TR in, or you want to quit, like, and you don't want to play for these owners. And it really made it really tough, especially as a new owner, to do that, to really build a successful team. And so when I was kind of calling out some of that stuff, trying to figure out ways to kind of maybe revamp how management and how that some of those kind of tampering kind of rules could end up being, couldn't find anything good. It basically, they started using me being trans as their attack on me, where it was, they were smart enough to not blatantly say it, but they would constantly infer, like, "Oh yeah, I'm an Apache helicopter or something like that. Like, I identify as this," to where it's like not ban worthy, but at the same time, it's like, I know exactly what the hell you're doing, I don't like it. I don't like your intention behind it, and I would AC them for that for COC violations, and ultimately would get dismissed. Or in the one case, the old PSN commissioner had ended up basically just let my AC disappear. I never heard from as to why it disappeared. And I even brought it up with Brody the one time after I kind of came back. Like, why is they let this guy come back on a different ban, gave him an appeal, and immediately let him go off and manage a team, even though he was banned the season before. And so I was livid over that. And Swifty, his name was Nav at the time. I don't know what his name is now, but he's changed a couple times. But there's a bunch of them that have like that. And I just got this reputation of just always ACing people because they would come at me for it, and I just wouldn't take it. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and take your shit, so I'm gonna submit it, and at least then you're gonna have to keep getting talked to about it, even if they don't get banned. Like maybe you'll learn a lesson along the way and just shut up. Unfortunately, it didn't work. I ended up getting one guy banned because he came in to a party I was in one time and he just started going off on like he came in uninvited. It was a public party, just joined in and just immediately started going off on me. So I left. My buddy that was in the party ended up turning on a stream and we got the game recording for it. And the guy went for 20 minutes after I left, just ripping me apart about my gender, my sexuality, everything, and then talking about my parents and how ashamed they must be of me because of this. And like it was bad. And because of that, the guy ended up getting banned. And then he came back under a different account a week later, saw me in the shout box, and immediately started doing it in the shout box too. So I got that account banned then too. And it was at that point I was like, you know what, I just need to go get a fresh start. Like, and I kind of was like, that was like, I'm gonna get the new Xbox, so let's start over there. No one knows me over there. I can just be quiet, play my games, and not have to deal with it. But I felt real comfortable with Jayco, Stomps, and the Raiders guys that I didn't want to hide anymore. I'm just like, I'm gonna be who I am. If people have an issue with it, that's their problem, not mine. So
Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm sorry, this some of the stuff like when you're talking about, like I can't imagine having comments like that sent over to you and people going off on you like that. Just like even for me, like I don't like that stuff, and I'm telling you, like there's a pretty big community here that I think will have your back in most of this stuff, and we need to make sure that we're putting guys on blast for these inappropriate things too. Like things getting swept under the rug. That shouldn't be a thing. Like you should be calling people out when stuff like that happens. And I know there is a pretty strong representation of this league that would support you in all those ways. Artie, thank you so much for the follow, and Artie put a nice comment here saying glad that you're talking about your experience. Takes courage. Hope we all have the courage in the Chell community to step up and speak up when we see unacceptable behavior. And I completely agree with that comment. Like we as a community need to step up and we need to make sure that this stuff's not happening when we see it in the shout box. Even if it's not towards us specifically, we need to make sure that we keep this a community that people want to play in. And hearing your experience, this like it bothers me. And when we talked about the cheaters, right? When people cheat, unfortunately, there's people in this world that they're not going to change the way they think, the way they feel, and there's going to be people that just want to be miserable and piss people off and put people down. And those people, we just need to make sure that, well, one, it's not easy to ignore, but those people are just absolutely nothings in our lives. And you know um they're no matter what we do, they're not going to change their minds. So just it's
yeah,
best to put them aside and move forward with the positive people for sure.
yeah, and that's actually probably the thing that I've learned the most from my time in LG. Is being able to, because initially I would get super upset. Like I would get into huge like shout box Discord fights with these people and just keep going. Like I had to get the last word and I had to change their mind. But somewhere along the line, I learned I ain't gonna change their mind. They're just assholes, and stop trying to make it about changing their mind and more about me just being me and them just being assholes and pointing out they're an asshole to everybody. So I'd start responding with like ridiculous things in response. Like they come at me And I would just say something like, I don't even know. Like I just come up with like, yeah, well, at least I could make a grilled cheese sandwich better than you or something. I don't know.
Just
Like
completely
something
throw
just
them off. Like, what the
completely
fuck?
random that had nothing to do with anything. And they would just be like, what? And then that way, if like they kept going, then it's like, I know they're just going at me because they want to go at me. And other people would see that and step in. And that's like why, like when, someone like Potato or whatever in managers chat right now kind of comes at me with some of these things. Like, I don't care. Like, you can't bother me. I've dealt with way worse shit in this league. Like, I'm not bothered by you sitting there getting upset over an AC or thinking that I'm gonna sit there and play you every week. Like, or even like Delta, Elite Delta sitting there and they're talking about he feels like he's getting pinged by people or they're joking about the pizza. It's like, dude, you don't know what harassment is in this league. I've dealt with it. Like, just you're develop a little bit of a thicker skin on that. If it gets to a point where it is harassment, then say something.
For
But
sure, for sure. And
yeah, but
Swift,
this I will say the Swifty and Stomps, the Xbox community has been way more supportive. I felt than the PlayStation side has, but I do have people on the PlayStation side that have created a pretty good community over there too for everybody. So there's good on both.
no, for sure. And I think it like when you say like Swifties created some good atmosphere. I'm trying my best to create my own platform too, and like having positive vibes. And
Yeah, you absolutely have a good
until
atmosphere too. So
so it's important that we hear these kind of things though, right? Because if we don't know things are happening, like we can't react, right? Like, and that's why it's really good. Like when you said that one thing that got swept under the rug, bring it up, man. Bring it up. Let people know what the hell's going on because. Like I think it's important. And Swifty made a good point. This community loves rallying against one person. So if you got an example, you got a name. How
yeah.
fast this community can just get on somebody. So
Oh, and
I'm
it's
sure that could be
relentless
fun
too.
too. Just gotta when we go after that one person, there's still COC rules we gotta follow, right? But
Yep.
awesome. Okay, one last question in chat. If you guys have any questions for Aaron, we can put them in the chat. One last question is if you could change one thing in the league today. So say you were Brody for a day or Tris for a day. What one thing would you change with this league?
So the biggest thing I think I would change is getting rid of the free contracts within management and changing it to where part of the thing I was kind of using with the stats was use a statistical analysis to give each manager a cap value, bump the cap value up to kind of accommodate the fact that you're going to have manager caps. But then that way their cap value is set in stone for that season. That's what they're worth. That way it makes it more of an even playing field to where you're not in a situation where you have to be a top player to take that free spot, because if you don't, say you're a 750K third liner, but you really have the passion, the heart, and the commitment to managing, and you take that free spot, you're putting yourself and your team behind the eight ball, because now you have to go out and buy three top players rather than having that cap already saved because you're that top player. And I think that would help balance it. But the issue we ran into with the Facebook league, because I helped them kind of do something over there, was you get people that are, yeah, it's way too subjective, like 98 said, that it causes more problems, because then you get someone that'll go and sandbag a season just to have a lower value, then come back the next season. And but that would be my ideal change. It's just the unfortunate side effect is that it probably wouldn't make that much of a difference in how the league would work. And when it comes down to it, the free side of LG isn't the moneymaker. CBJ, Caps Gaming, ESHL, those are the moneymakers that Tris and Brody and everyone else cares about, because that's where we as players could actually go win some money. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that would ultimately be the thing I would probably look to change. Is just how that management structure starts and balancing that better.
Yeah. Nice. 98, thanks for the follow. Great comment there too. And Aaron, that's a great one. I haven't heard that one before, and it kind of makes sense. Like I think that'd be a pretty good change as well. Like give us a different way of building teams and whatnot too. So
Yeah, and it would also keep people that want to manage, because part of the issue right now that we've seen the last couple seasons, particularly at the NHL level, not so much the CHL, is that people don't want to take those ownership and management spots because they know it's going to be a headache of babysitting egos, and if your team's bad, people are just going to start quitting on you or demanding that you trade them, and it's not going to be a fun experience. And that was this experience I had in my 2 seasons owning on the NHL and PlayStation. Was I was a third line NHLer, not worth the free contract, and because of that, good players would not play for me even if I won them in bidding because they wanted to go play for someone that was worth it. And even I could have been the best damn manager, but because I wasn't worth that free contract, it already put us behind where we have to grind for everything. And yeah, so that would really be my big change, just to kind of encourage the good managers that aren't necessarily the best players to stick around and keep managing and to balance that out more.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. That's a really good one. That's a really good one. A lot of people come in and talk about the RA system. That's its own thing, but no, that's a really good suggestion. Um, just yeah, again, if Chad has any questions, feel free to bring them up. This is the end. That was the last question there. And usually I will give I didn't actually put it in the message to you, but I always allow my guests to ask me one question. So I don't know if you have one off the top of your head. If not, no worries. I forgot to put that in the little script I sent you, but if the chat has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't know, Aaron, do you have a question for me?
Well, let's get a little bit of let's get some Kahuna media here in regards to the league itself. Top three teams in the CHL that you think right now based off their roster.
Oh
Who you got?
man. Okay, on the spot, I think I can do this relatively quickly. Sarnia for sure. Sarnia for sure. I really do like that team. I think when I looked at their three lines, even though their one line didn't have a good week this week, their third line is just as strong as some top lines on some other teams. So I like Sarnia. I like Sioux again. I do. They built another really good team. I don't know how they keep doing it, but that not Jopo player is very very good. Um, looking at the others, I'm trying to look through the W here. There's so many like there's some good teams that I don't know enough about on the W side. Um, I'm just looking here for a third team. Damn. I think I gotta go with the Blazers, to be honest. Like they're having an unreal season. I do like their roster, and like they've lost one regulation game so far. So I think I go with the Blazers there. Now there is some sleeper teams I think in the W. I maybe not sleeper, like top teams that could make a really good run. I do like your roster. BK Dirk's my boy, so I'm super happy that you guys have him. You guys are having a good season with him. I do like the Royals team. And the Thunderbirds are scary and interesting because I think they have a really good tight team, strong team too. But we'll see how they do.
I would agree with you, Liz. That Blazers team, I did play them this week. We lost 3-0. The Pastors line, Hayton and them, and they're I think yeah Spur was their center, and they're a crafty line. I wouldn't say that they're not flashy from what I played. Like I've played way flashier teams. They're just very much just nose to the grindstone. Like they cut very well and they don't miss their passes on those cuts. Like they're just patient with it, and so they're scary. I haven't got to see Seattle play, but from what they've kind of done stats wise, it looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I
when I
think uh, I think my division might be the meat grinder though, from the looks of it, between the Raiders, us, the Pats, and then Brandon. I think he has some two pretty good lines that can make a good run on people. That's just going to be a back and forth beating up on each other all season.
I would agree. I would definitely agree. There's like the top call it four teams are probably very similar. And then I wouldn't count Brandon Wheat Kings out too. They have a really good team too. So the only thing I would say though with that, like we could say that this week and next week it could change and the following week it could change because like this season with the I would say with the amount of players and I'm gonna say talent as well. Um, I've like the AHL call ups are gonna screw teams over.
Oh yeah,
It's
never
happening
never
already.
discount the summer season. NHL and AHL call ups just completely screwing teams over.
Like I just had a left wing called up that I re-signed, so cheap contract for sure. Good left winger, but I like just got traded for and then called up instantly, and it's like, okay, well, I don't have a plan for that right now. So luckily, we're on a 2 week break.
Potato and Marco saying they lost like 5 players to call ups last week and everything. Like, yeah, it gets crazy.
Yeah. So it could change every week. Who knows? You could have a really good team this week, and
Yeah.
like last season, I think Seattle had a whole line called up. Like their top line was called up, so anything can happen. Yeah. So those would be my teams right now, but
Yeah.
cool. I don't see anything in the chat. We've gone for about an hour and almost 20 minutes now. So again, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your experience in the league, sharing kind of some of that rivalry stuff, and talking about that C tier Prince Albert team, and obviously sharing a little bit of your story too. So again, like there's a lot of this community that has your back. A lot of this community is going to support you. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm trying to see if I can figure out the answer to Swifty's question from the open, but it's going to take me a little bit more calculating. I can't do it in my head.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I think
Those math
Moneywags actually
problems.
answered it at some point, so if you wanted to
Probably,
cheat, you
yeah.
could find it there, but somewhere in the chat. But yeah, no, again, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. It was a great conversation. I think a lot of people enjoyed it, and best of luck this season. I do really like your team, and take care of my buddy Dirk. It's his first time not being on my team.
He's getting taken care of, that's for sure. So he's got himself a good line in front of him. It makes it easy.
That's awesome. Alrighty. Well, thanks again. Have a great night.
Have a good one as well.
Take care. All right. Team. Thanks everybody for joining today's Between Two Sticks. I know it's been a while since we've done it. Really good conversation with Erin. And I can't stress enough, right? Like if we see something that's not acceptable going on in this league, let's make sure that we take care of it. We don't need people like that in this league. We want to be a community that's going to grow. We want people to want to play here. So when it comes to anything inappropriate, let's make sure that we take care of it and we gather as a group to make sure that we stick up for the people that sometimes they're getting the grind from other players, as well as so many inappropriate comments that we learned about today, and we see it. So let's make sure that we're the ones that make the difference. We are the ones policing some of that stuff, and we'll keep growing this community to make it as big as we can. Again, like I started off the stream, hope everyone has a great long weekend. Have a fun, safe long weekend, and we'll be back with I guess we got about a week break. I'll see if I can find something to do throughout next week. But Kahuna's Corner will be back, regular schedule, starting not this Sunday coming up, the Sunday following. But again, thanks everybody for joining. Can't do this without the great following that we have. To the new followers today, thanks for following. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great long weekend. Take care.